Here we are on a Thursday, live in Los Angeles. It's The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, we're on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. I was nervous watching the fourth quarter last night. The intensity, the desperation was fantastic. 1 hour from now, yesterday I delivered my AFC predictions. Today I deliver my NFC predictions. A lot more drama, a lot more questions in the NFC, where the AFC has really dominant teams at the top in their division. Buffalo, Kansas City, Colts. Joy Taylor is joining me. Yeah, that last night is, between the home run derby and the intensity in the All-Star game and the NBA Finals, not only do we miss sports, athletes miss the fans. Like the fans last night, that building is shaking. The fans are totally into it. The teams are totally into it. I loved how much that game mattered to the Milwaukee Bucks last night.
I don't think we will ever not appreciate a rocking building again, because I thought the Phoenix fans showed out all throughout the playoffs, but the Bucks are giving them a run for their money. And that Deer District thing,
oh, it's incredible.
It's not for me, way too many people, but I'm sure for everyone there, it's a good time.
Well, it was a great game last night. So listen, this is what happens. This is what American sportscasters do. Whoever wins the game, that team's great and the other team stinks. I still like Phoenix in the series. Chris Paul played his worst game, and they led by 7 with about 8 minutes to go, and that's with one guy actually hitting shots for the entire roster, Devin Booker. But I think what you're seeing, what I witnessed last night, here's what I witnessed. Ever since the Milwaukee Bucks put Drew Holiday on Chris Paul, it's felt different for Chris Paul. Drew Holiday is big. He is 6'3", 205 pounds. He is big and he's physical. Chris Paul is barely 6 feet tall and 175 pounds. And his production has fallen off a cliff over the last 3 games. 23 points to 19 points to 10 points. And in those games, he's got 15 turnovers in the last 3 games. Big, physical, strong Drew Holiday on Chris Paul is showing Chris Paul's age. And we told you a week ago, the Bucks are the older, bigger, stronger, more physical team. If this was in an octagon, it would not last a round. They're starting to wear down the finesse, the thin, the quick, the younger Phoenix Suns. Now, remember, Chris Paul did not play for a couple of games in that Clippers series, right? The COVID protocol. So he came into this series fresh, energized, rested. And the Bucks then decided to put Drew Holiday on him, who's a big, physical, tough guy who plays defense. And Chris Paul looked old last night. We'll get into that more in about 15 minutes. But what you're seeing is the classic NBA chess match. A big physical team with mostly one shooter, Chris Middleton, you trust, against a young, athletic, finesse team, Phoenix, with a lot of shooters, although only one hit last night. And what's critical here is in the NBA history, the 40 years I've been watching, old teams beat young teams, almost always. Even that Warriors team, which we consider young, Steph was only in year 6, and Clay was young, and Draymond was young. Andre Iguodala won an MVP. Remember that? Old Andre Iguodala. And Kevin Durant's got some years on him. So even when you have a young team, veteran players are so crucial. Why? Because when you get late into games and late into series, it's decision-making time. And the young kids get tight. Remember Phoenix against the Clippers? Remember they led 3-1 in that series, went back home to Phoenix? How tight Phoenix was? Now, they won the series. That moment, that night, it was too much. They just were. And last night, Phoenix was great until about 3 minutes to go. And Phoenix got sloppy and a little tight. This is part of the process. So NBA history tells you the old guys beat the young guys. Last year in the bubble, we remarked that it was the only time in my life I'd ever seen old teams peeling off and young teams flourishing, but that was explainable. The bubble had all these old veteran guys away from their kids and families getting depressed. Many players acknowledged that, and the young teams loved it because they were just going and playing video games. It's like AAU basketball, playing hoop, going back to their room. They didn't have the big families. They didn't have a lot of kids. So last year was a weird playoff year. The kids beat the old guys until LeBron and AD won the finals. Miami is a bunch of kids. And then Miami essentially this year reverts back to what happens to the young teams. They're hot and cold, up and down. So the history tells you Milwaukee should win this series. But I think Phoenix is a better team. I think Phoenix is going home. I think this morning, it depends on what fan base you are. If you're Milwaukee's fan base, this morning you're thinking, we're wearing these guys out, and we figured them out. And this morning, if you're a Phoenix fan base, you're thinking to yourself, hell, we were up by 7, and one guy on the entire roster was hitting shots. And that's what I believe. I think Phoenix was up 2-1. They were up by 7 points last night. One guy, Devin Booker, was playing well, and Chris Paul was to be awful. It was the worst playoff game he's played. The other thing with Phoenix is they've only got 2 veterans here, Chris Paul and Jay Crowder. Crowder couldn't shoot last night, although I thought he played well. He couldn't shoot, and Chris Paul was terrible. Phoenix going to have a hard time beating Milwaukee and winning this championship. They're good. Now, Crowder played well but didn't hit his shots. Chris and Jay Crowder need to be really good in these key spots. You cannot rely on kids. This is not the way the league works. Everybody gets tight. And you start looking at that Bucks roster, and Brook Lopez been in this league over 10 years, Giannis 8, Middleton 8. And they're old. They have been through a lot of work. I mean, Giannis and Middleton have been playing together for how many years? 7, 8 years? So, I will tell you this. Suns had 17 turnovers. Bucks had 5. I do not think that'll happen again. But we have to be fair here. A lot of those turnovers is because the Suns are fatigued from the Bucks leaning on them. And frankly, the Bucks are physical. And you turn the ball over when people pressurize you and push you and make you uncomfortable. So we've got a chess match. The last 4 minutes, the veteran team that trailed all night, they were behind and they're playing catch-up. The veteran team jumped over the young team because that's what veteran teams do at home in big spots. I still like Phoenix, but Chris Paul, the pressure officially on his shoulders. Here's Chris.
Yeah, I had 5 of them. You know what I mean? It was bad decision-making. They got, a significant amount more shots than us. And so, for me, I got to take care of the ball. If we got 17 turnovers, we shoot the ball too well not to have those opportunities to score.
All right. I still like the Suns, but I think in 7, not 6. All right. We've been talking a lot about the Aaron Rodgers situation. And as we said before, he's going to play this year. What are his options?